All right. Just to get started, could I get a volunteer for the opening prayer?
I'll say it.
Thanks.
All right. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this evening that we have, and we're grateful for the opportunity to increase our education and learn. And we pray that we'll be able to understand the points that we discussed tonight as a group, that we'll be able to help each other out, and that we'll have the Spirit to guide and direct us in the way that the discussion should go. And we pray for these blessings, and pray for a blessing on our instructors and those that work with us in our classes. And this we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right. I just want, okay, I'm going to go ahead and share scripture here really quick with you guys.
All right.
It's going to be Ether 12:27. Says, "And if men come unto me, I will show them their weakness. I give unto men a weakness that they may be humble. And my grace is sufficient for all men that humble themselves before me. For if they humble themselves before me and have faith in me, then will I make weak things become strong unto them." I always thought that this scripture was really applicable towards education and towards, especially coming into college years and, being confronted with a lot of challenging courses and stuff like that. The Lord, He understands that we don't know everything right off the bat, and He's ready to help us take those things that we don't know yet and become strong in them with all of our classes and all of the things that we're pursuing in our lives. And I really do know that that's true, and I've seen that a lot in my life, especially how the Lord can take something that I look at one day and just cannot understand, and then with a lot of practice and a lot of study, I feel like I can, get good at it enough to do kind of good to get a good grade. But I just wanted to share that, and I know that to be true, and I say that in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks.
All right. Let's see. Now, Aaron, do you have the questions and stuff opened up there?
I do.
Okay, because on the third task, there's just a little thing that needs to be read. If I get you to read that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. So far in this course, we've seen a few common threads and takeaways. First, founders matter. Experience, passion, and vision shape the business and can make the difference between success and failure. Part 2, business plan. At the founding stage of the company is a collection of hypotheses. In other words, guesses. Startups create value by systematically testing hypotheses and making changes to the plan when the test results indicate a need to change. Early tests tell us a lot about the viability of a business and where more information is needed. Previous cases analyzed, business models the founders had already chosen. Now we get to see a company at the moment of choice.
All right, perfect. Thank you. So did you guys? I'm guessing you were able to read the case and everything. Did we? Okay, cool. Now, just we know that we were faced with kind of a decision at the very end, and there were 3 different routes that we could take. So we're just going to go ahead and vote for the business model option that we like the most. It says it almost makes it sound like we got to use some type of iClicker thing or whatever, but so let's just go ahead and voice our opinions. I really like the razor and razor blades. That was my favorite one. Norman, did you have a preference? You didn't like the
It depends on who I am, whether I'm the founder or whether I'm the investors, but I would vote for the traditional strategy. That would be my vote, just from a financial standpoint.
Okay.
My vote's with you, Victor. 2 to 1. razor blades. And we'll probably talk about it more, but just the low cost of the production makes sense, in the hands of everyone makes sense. And then obviously just the markup on the materials sold.
Right. What I like too about that one is that it got the product kind of spread out a lot more. You know, a lot more people using it and understanding how to use it. So the customer base goes up, and I mean, it's not as expensive, but the fact that they're getting it out there and getting more kind of almost like subscriptions because people have to, pay to get certain like maintenance done and everything like that. I thought that was kind of cool. But Norman, why did you like the traditional strategy so much over the others?
I don't know what the existing machines cost, but I mean they were talking thousands, and that was one of the things where only bigger hospitals or whatever could afford those. So I'm thinking if you have a machine that can do that, then why give it away? It's almost like I thought it was like Mercedes or BMW or let's say Rolls-Royce.
Uh-huh.
Rolls-Royce, they're $100,000, $150,000 for a Rolls-Royce. Let's say you're able for some miracle thing, you're able to get some of the people that hand make Rolls Royces to come over and work at a factory next door, and
Yeah.
you can make a Rolls Royce for that's maybe even faster than the original Rolls Royces. And what are you going to do to sell those? Are you going to sell those for your cost, maybe $20,000, and then say, well, I'll sell you a Rolls Royce for 20,000, or it's actually better than a Rolls Royce for 20,000, but you have to buy gas at my gas station, and the gas is maybe 10 cents more per gallon or something, and you say, well, I'm going to make my money on that 10 cents per gallon. I just think they're leaving a lot of money on the table with these other the discounted price models. If the machine right now is going for 100,000, sure, come out and say, we've revolutionized it. Our machine is faster and costs less per test, and it's only 80,000. And so then you just snap up market share against people that are trying to compete with $100,000 machines. I just, to me, I understand why he's looking at these other models because he places a high value on getting this technology out to the masses to help benefit maybe diagnostics, diagnosis of diseases and things like that. And so it's kind of like somebody that comes up with a vaccine. Well, if it's a real valuable vaccine, you could charge, $1,000 a shot, but you really want to help people's health. So I understand that, but so I really think that whatever model they choose, I think him weighing in, he's going to eliminate the traditional strategy. So I think there's going to have to be some type of balance between him and his investors because his investors. So maybe if you can show the investors, that we'll get a payback on it, maybe not have such big margins initially. I don't know. So that was my reasoning.
Okay. And Aaron, did you have anything you want to say about why you chose Razor and Razor Blades besides that it sounded the coolest?
Sure. I like the razor and razor blade strategy, and I kind of mentioned this earlier. It's just that they could get it out there quick, low cost, and in the hands of more people, large customer base. Looking through the Excel models and stuff like that. Like, sure, they're not going to make as much profit. It's going to take a long time to reach break even. Um, but part of me said, like, this founder guy, I won't even try to say his name. Um,
Esfandiarpour.
One more time, Norman.
Esfandiarpour.
Esfandiarpour. Okay. Uh, he's Iranian. He's entrepreneurial already. He started a separate, I think, a telecommunications company or something at one point. So he's got the talent, I think, to do whatever business model, really. Um, to me, he's not in it for the money.
Yeah, that's how I felt too.
Yeah, and he's wanted to do a greater good for the greater population. And I just felt that this second strategy was one way he could accomplish that. And Norman brings up really good points of it's probably going to come down to what the investors think versus what the founders think. Unless he finds a really special investor. So I don't know if Razor and Razor Blade makes the most sense financially, but morally, I would say that's my answer.
Yeah. Well, for me, I think almost financially too, it was kind of nice because I feel like he's gonna get, I don't know, his brand out there and people are gonna start noticing it. His machine is actually going to get in the hands of a lot of people. He's gonna get I don't know, a lot more people using it versus the other ones. And then with that happening, I feel like it could pretty much take over the market based off of what it seems like the other machines cost and the sizes of them and their accuracy and all that. It just seems like such a better product. But okay, so none of us
I have a question real quick,
yeah,
Victor. What do you think the ramifications would be if he comes out with such a low price? Do you think the competitors would follow suit and they'd turn into a price war? I'm just kind of
yeah.
thinking maybe the traditional strategy that everyone else in the market charges an exuberant amount of money for this type of product.
It might be kind of it might like raise a red flag to other people. Like they might wonder like why is
What?
that one so cheap? I
Sure.
don't know anything about that. So I can kind of see what you're saying there, which is
I would just hate to be like, yeah, look at our cheap product, and then all of a sudden all the other products, are do and we enter a price war.
yeah. No, that's
Um,
a really good point.
I don't know. I just thought of that.
Did anybody see in the case what model he sold to the investors to get I mean, it says he was awarded grants, 4 million in grants, and 10 million in venture funding with DeChang Capital as the lead investor. But I would be really curious as to what financial models he used to get that 10 million in venture capital.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if they intentionally left that out or if they missed it.
Yeah, I mean, they may have. A couple of, it says to mention pros and cons. Here's one of the things that I was thinking about was on option 3, the value of the data. We see how well that worked out for Cake Financial, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of a big open-ended question. The other thing that just for you guys to think about that are looking at the Razor model, um, one of the things I know with printers is there's kind of a antitrust thing where aftermarket, you can buy aftermarket print cartridges or refills or whatever,
Right.
and and HP and Epson and a lot of others spent millions of dollars defending against those, and they ended up losing because you can't sell a product at or below cost and then require the require the end user to purchase materials or parts for repair, like Xerox machines. Some like just regular copy machine repair people sued Xerox because Xerox wouldn't sell them Xerox parts because they wanted the service revenue, and Xerox lost on that one. And like so Xerox actually either had to sell their parts to third-party repair people, or they had to give their specifications so that other manufacturers could make the parts to their specifications. And the same thing with print cartridges. So I think that's a big risk to gamble your future revenues on something that somebody else, the government could force you to let somebody else make.
Right. That's a really good point. As I was reading,
Sorry, go ahead, Victor.
no, sorry, I was just gonna say, as I was reading through the case and I read that last one too, I remembered my uncle. He got like this. He was all excited because he got a free printer, and then he kind of started to elaborate. He said, "It's free, but I just have to buy so many cartridges of ink every couple of weeks, and then I don't know. You can see how doing that just it kind of locks people in. Also, kind of makes them feel trapped, and then just will cause issues down the road. But yeah, I don't know. It was just something that I was thinking about as well. Was that whole printer situation? But yeah, good point, Norman.
Hey, I was just going to say, is that antitrust issue or third-party knockoffs unique only to the Razor and Razor Blades model? I don't know if it would be. I mean, it could be, but it might not be unique just to that model.
I think the government tends to want to protect the consumer from a product where there's not competition per se. In that, it would be like if you bought a car that only worked on gas from Shell or something like that.
Sure.
They would because then it's somewhat of a monopoly because you buy the car, but then let's say they start raising the gas price way over and above regular gas. You're stuck with a car that only works with it. So they're really protective as far as consumers not being put in the position to, the guy may have pure motives as far as, wanting to get it out and benefit society, but, he could be gone 10 years from now and, just have some cutthroat corporate people in there that, just start raising these cartridge prices or whatever. So,
okay.
I think it can be managed, but just a consideration, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look into. But do you think that would apply to the very last, what's it called, the data analytics situation? Because from what I think from what I understood is that nobody really actually got the machines. They just sent in information, and then they got answers back or test results back. Is that right, or did I read that wrong?
No, I thought they were going to sell. They were going to sell the machines at cost, and that would kind of be I think the founders, big dream would be that would benefit the most amount of people with the machines and the test cartridges at cost. Okay. And the money would come from the data that's generated from all the DNA test. And one of the videos, the one instructor kind of used the example of Google, how Google doesn't charge for its search engine, but what it does is then it gathers all the data and then sells that data to advertisers and marketers and things like that. So he used that example. So I don't think you'd really have those issues because you wouldn't have third-party cartridge makers saying, "Oh, I'm going to start selling these cartridges at less than cost." They wouldn't do that. So it would kind of prevent, third-party people from even wanting to get in because there wouldn't be any money to be made by making third-party cartridges for this machine.
Cool. Okay. Let's move on to the next question here. Quite a bit. Says using a polling tool that allows students. Okay, so we're just gonna vote. Let's see. If we increase on the Excel the EBIAT sales and hold everything else equal, time to pay back increases, decreases, remains the same. Did you guys go through the Excel? Were you able to kind of mess around with it at all?
I played with it a little bit, but I kept resetting it back to
Yeah, me too.
I've got it to where I can pull it up here. So,
Do you mind sharing your screen there, Norman?
yeah, let me.
I mean, I've got it up too, and I can plug in the numbers you had.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, can you see it? Oh, there we go.
There we go. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I'll just make it big. Okay, so read the question, and I'll play with the numbers. If we increase
the EBIT sales right there, yeah, and hold
okay.
everything else equal.
All right, so there it is at 5%. So let's do kind of a dramatic increase to show. So let's go to 15%.
Okay, and we're looking at time to pay back, if it increases or decreases or remains the same.
Okay, so the time to pay back or break even in cumulative cash flow, it ends up being just a little bit after year one,
right?
When we increase it. So that's the time to pay back definitely decreases. You go back to 5%.
Yeah.
And the payback's 5 years.
The hockey stick right there. Yep.
Okay.
So, do we all agree that the payback time decreases?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Now, if the NOA sales increase, what happens to cash flow?
Okay, so we'll go from 20 to 30. Okay, so that the time to pay back increases substantially.
Yeah, and it, yeah, that's good. Okay. So, we can use that really quick because it's kind of the same as what I'm looking at in the questions. But under cumulative free cash flow, you see right there?
Okay.
Yeah. That graph, which segment represents the highest burn rate? So where would the highest burn rate be in that cash flow?
That would be the first year one.
First. That's pretty much kind of what the illustration looks like in the question, and it's kind of in the same spot. So I guess the burn rate just means where the most money is being burnt up without seeing any type of revenue or sales, getting it ready and getting it launched.
Right, your burn rate's always going to be the time before your break-even point. to turn positive cash flow. It's just if it goes over several years, the burn rate. Let me see if I can get it to go. Let's put these down.
That's like a dream business, right there.
Yeah, it's like I can't get it to go more than 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Pure success. Let's see.
I have to be able to change the amount invested, which I don't think I can do on this one.
Yeah, I don't think you can. Okay. Cool. Do we have any questions or any anything anybody wants to say about this? If not, we can move on.
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay, so the next question says, what strategies have we seen that flatten or lengthen the cash flow curve? Specifically, try to draw the cash flow curves for Dr. John's products, Rent the Runway, and Dropbox as they were described in the case. Just make a rough guess as to the shapes of each of these cash flow curves. So, you guys think that Dr. John's product, Rent the Runway, and Dropbox had similar curves? Or do you think that they were each pretty different?
See, Dropbox, did they need a lot of startup costs?
I think all their startup costs were kind of getting it publicized, but that really didn't even cost that much.
I guess the other question, who had the biggest startup costs?
I would think Rent the Runway. Maybe. Well, I don't know.
I don't recall without referencing the case.
Yeah.
Dr. John's product. Oh, was that the toothbrush one?
Yeah, that's a toothbrush one.
Okay.
I would say Dr. John's products probably had a quicker break-even point.
I agree with you, Norman.
And quicker positive cash flow.
I think Rent the Runway took a little bit longer time. They had to invest, but I think they eventually got to it. But Dr. John, I mean, and then also Dropbox. I don't think that. Actually, the Dropbox, I think they struggled for a little bit, didn't they? Trying to figure out how to get the payment situation figured out or something. Did they have trouble with that?
They had a bunch of free users.
Yeah.
And then I think 2% were the paying customers. Rent the Runway, depending on how many employees they had at a certain time or not, I don't even know if they hit the green on a profit or not, if they made a profit or not.
I think they just had projected profit. I don't think they ever talked about if they had a profit or not. I think you're right. They just were working their way towards that. Dr. John's was definitely really good.
Yeah, I'm looking at the freemium model that I did for.
Oh yeah.
For them. Here, I'll pop it up. I can't really. Here's the Rent the Runway one. And I think Rent the Runway I mean, they just didn't have a lot of histories, but the first month's rentals see, they had 800 dresses in inventory, so their annual profit per dress was $357. So they were, if I recall, they had pretty high initial costs. So if
Yep.
if they were if their cash flow, I'd have to plug these numbers in, but I think it would take them a few years to get just to the cash flow positive. That was one of the issues we were kind of talking about, was, staying up with the fashions, and if they have to just keep buying dresses, they're never, and if those dresses don't, rent the number of times in the year that we were projecting here, 8 times. So if they couldn't get more than 8 rentals out of each dress before they had to buy new fashions, then they're going to be always be cash flow negative.
Yeah. While we're on Rent the Runway, one of the next questions, and I don't mean to jump on your feet here, Victor, but it says, what impact? What would be the impact on Rent the Runway's cash flow curve if they decided to lease? If the designers retained ownership of the dress and they kind of leased it for a while, like obviously that would minimize the amount of capital needed to build up inventory, right?
Yeah.
And then so their profit margin would be better. Depending on their disposal strategy of the product once it reached a year or so, I guess that would determine, if they would lose out on any extra income, like a what is that called when your book value or something like that of the dress
Well,
when
let's
you
just
sell it.
compare. Let's say they can lease the dress for half what they buy it, so 113. Then yeah, I mean their profit at 1,000 dresses goes to 542 versus 316.
So yeah, their payback period would probably be a lot shorter
Yeah,
if they were, able to do
I mean
something.
that could be the difference between it being a viable model or not.
Right.
Whether
Okay.
they actually go cash flow positive and then return.
Okay. Now, if Dr. John, the toothbrush guy, if they had decided to build an independent company rather than acquired, um, what activities would John had to have done differently? And what do you guys think the cash flow would have been like then? And the payback period if he would have decided to run his own independent toothbrush company. I think I think he probably would have seen some immediate results, but then they would have just dropped off like shortly after if he would have.
Yeah, he was kind of entering a crowded market already.
Yeah, and
Um,
competitive.
and then obviously he'd have to have a marketing department, accounting department, and as you expand and stuff like that, like your costs are going to grow, maybe not linear, but maybe even exponential, like versus the strategy of selling it, after a couple of years once it has momentum.
Mhm.
So I think he did the right thing there.
Yeah, definitely. And then for the other case too, the Dropbox one, what decisions did Drew Houston make in Dropbox that favorably impacted the cash flow curve? I think initially he prevented the cash flow curve from getting too deep, or I mean, from his, from investing too much money into it. I think he did really well on his expenses to get it started, so he didn't have to worry about making millions and millions of dollars back. But That, and I feel like he did really good with getting the attention from potential users, like with his YouTube videos and getting publicity and stuff like that. I feel like he was able to do it in a really um, inexpensive way, and that really benefited him a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that. It made it to where he could leverage the, like you said, with the expenses and not using their own servers, but just buying the storage space. I think that was really big because storage space costs kept coming down, and that's going to really help your cash flow.
Yeah. Let's see.
Hey Norman, any chance
Yeah,
you could send an email with that Rent the Runway spreadsheet you just had open? Is that
yeah.
something you made, or is that something that was attached somewhere?
They had it as a. Did my camera get turned off? No, it doesn't matter. They had it as a. Let me open it up again here. Um,
Is it in one of the like resource folders or anything like that?
it, I can't remember where it was with the Rent the Runway, but it was basically a rental business model for
Oh.
videotapes, or like something like something like Netflix when they were sending videos out,
Uh-huh.
to where they would send two videos out, and it was like $4 for two videos and the cost of the video. So I
Hmm.
had to modify it for Rent
Oh,
the
okay.
Runway for dresses and that type of thing. But yeah,
Hmm.
no, I can put that on the
Oh, great. Yeah,
email.
that'll help playing with the numbers and writing this essay. Thanks, man.
Yeah, here I'll pull it up again. Yeah, so what I did one based on their first month's numbers, and then they bought 200 more dresses, so that put the dresses in inventory up to 1,000, and it really decreased their annual profit per dress. The more dresses you had,
Yeah, that makes
um,
sense. Like it diluted it, kind of.
yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, I'll shoot that over.
Okay,
You can
thanks.
just copy and paste the cells, and
Okay.
if you want to do side by side comparisons, because I did launch January of 2010.
Uh-huh.
So
All
Cool.
right.
Thanks.
Um, this next question just says, now let's look at the choices GenapSys has from a cash flow standpoint. For each business model option under consideration, compare the following. The first one is net present value. Um, if some of the options have similar net present values, which is riskier, it is advisable to take additional. Is it advisable to take additional risk for a similar net present value? Um,
So net present value is basically how much you're going to spend, say $2 million, and then it's a calculation based on the next 4 or 5 years of income or cash flow, positive cash flow, and it's a number that takes how much you took. Let me turn on my camera so I can talk with my hands. Basically, how much you spent, and then how much you gain, and it kind of, I don't know exactly how it works, but it's so you need like 4 or 5 years of data of cash flow numbers, and then it kind of puts a stamp of how much is your present value of your company, you know, based on these assumptions.
okay.
Um, so I guess what we need to know is there differences in capital required. So like I guess if we had a shallow payback curve
Mhm.
and it took a while to gain positive cash flow, then our net present value is obviously going to be lower. it doesn't really take into account, years 6, 7, 8, 9 that are, really great profit. I don't think, unless we included them in the formula. But I don't. Am I the right line there, Norman? Is it kind of what net present value is?
Yeah, net present value just discounts future revenues, future cash. So, and I think they said for GenapSys they were looking at a discount of 20%, I think. Which basically, if you're going to invest $10 million, you have to get back um, 20% a year in order for it to be a profitable investment.
That's right. So if it's a positive number on the net present value, it's above your discount value, right?
Right.
But if it's negative, then it doesn't even meet your criteria.
Right.
Okay, I follow you.
Trying to
Yeah,
think.
and I think part of that is you can have. Well, I think the big thing when we were looking at net present value is you can say, well, these two investments have the same break-even point, or in this case, we're looking at 3 different options. They could have the same break-even point, say 5 years down the road, but the net present value is going to take into account your 6, 7, 8 after that.
Oh, okay.
So the risk is, are you going to be able to sustain growth rates, or are you going to make all your money up front, type of thing. So
Okay.
Would it be right to say that the least risky would be the traditional strategy thing? Because they would technically have to, I don't know, they'd be able to charge more money and then also use less materials and resources because they're selling less of their machines. Would that be right to say?
you mean the option 1?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think all of these have risks, and
Right.
one of the benefits of option 1 is that is you say, well, $1 million in profit next year is worth more, considering net present value, is worth more than $1 million in profit 8 years from now. So the risk to the option number 3 is, well, you could run the numbers and have the numbers come out well in year 6, 7, or 8, but better numbers in 7 or 8, are those better numbers enough to overcome your net present value reduction of that same amount of profit in year 2? So net present value is going to kind of give you the total value, saying that $1 million profit in year 8 is worth less than $1 million profit in year 2.
Okay.
So all of these have some type of risk like that from a financial and time standpoint. The other risks are, just the cons of each one. The risk in the traditional one is your competitors get your machine, reverse engineer it, and come up with a similar machine that's less, and so your margins on those expensive machines sold to a few places, those margins drop pretty fast.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. We value your knowledge on this a lot.
Ditto.
Real, very helpful. Now we're kind of running out of time, so we're gonna speed through the rest of these really quick. A couple more. The next one says, "How will GenapSys raise funds to support each option? If any option clearly is any option clearly more attractive to investors?" Um, so, this one's- did the case study talk about investors and stuff, or what he was leaning towards? I think yeah, it did. Actually. I remember now. Okay. Um, but for
Just real quick, I think
okay.
kind of looking at those graphs and option one, the traditional sales method, just the cash flow curve, like we we're making money. I mean, we're not losing money, I guess. I don't know how to describe that. Like the curve is below zero, but like it's pointing up by
Right.
year at the end of year one. Like that's when the change happens. And by year, let's see, about 2016 or so, like we've broken even. And the other options, break even in option two is 2019 as well. Let's see, and break even in option three is like 2022.
Okay.
So for me, an investor, I would kind of lean towards the traditional um, sales method,
Right.
just because break even is sooner, and I guess less risk because there's less time involved before you get a positive return.
And you as just Aaron, would you go with traditional strategy now? Do you like it more?
Yeah. I hate to jump on Norman's bandwagon every week, but he does a great job. I don't know. My post discussion poll might have my opinion changed versus my pre-opinion or pre-discussion poll.
That I'm kind of thinking about it as well. Honestly, I think I considered a lot also the I don't know what is his name again? The guy that invented this.
Esfandiarpour.
Yeah, him. I feel like I took into consideration his feelings as well, and I really felt like his goal was just to get it out there. Make a little bit of money if you could, but mainly just to spread it out there. Because his family member had issues with a misdiagnosis and all this stuff. So I did think about that, but standing as an investor and I think Aaron, you're taking 361, right? Okay. We watched a video. I'm pretty sure you watched the same 45-minute long video about operation management. Businesses they're there to make money, you
Yeah,
know.
you nailed it.
So I guess option one is definitely the most beneficial, especially if you're wanting to make money, and I guess that's what we want to do. But
The other thing it doesn't take into account is you're you're going to have data. Um, you're going to have data value because if you look at all of these, let me share this one again so we can kind of talk about it because this really it's pretty. Are you guys on that financing implications one?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay. Because the one thing that I don't think's necessarily fair on this is if you look at net present value for all of them, the data analytics obviously has the highest. The problem, I don't think that's really fair because if you go with the razor and blade one, that means you get a lot of machines out there as well. So you're going to have probably just as much data on that model as you are going to have with the data analytics model. So like I said, I don't think it's really fair to say that net present value is only 35 million because I think that net present value would actually be even higher than the option three. Um, I think the solution, and they say there's no right answer, and I think almost everything is, some type of compromise. I think the solution might really be some type of program using that traditional strategy, but then having, because the cost of the machines aren't that much, but then having some type of grant program or loaner program or something like that for hospitals in disadvantaged communities or something like that. There's a lot of, see, I'm in the water business, and there's a lot of grants and federal funding available for water system and water treatments, to have better quality water for disadvantaged communities. And so, and it is pretty easy to, well, I wouldn't say it's pretty easy to qualify, but it's they just set standards and they just say, okay, if you're the income for your community for the water system that and you serve this particular community, if that particular community's median income is 80% or less than the median income for the state, then you can get, free money to, build treatment plants and whatever you need to, provide it. So I think I think it would satisfy him if they put together some type of program like that for, disadvantaged communities and hospitals that wanted to get machines like this, and it'd be a great PR move too. So
Real quick, kind of not off topic, but not really answered or really discussed in the case is the actual benefits of the data for health reasons and for pharmaceutical reasons and for finding cures and things like that. Like, is this database going to produce results in fighting serious diseases, or is it just nice to have? So I don't know. That could be another consideration that down the road, sure, a database where all these models and all these trends can be identified, and vaccines or whatever remedies could be produced from this data, and maybe there's not a dollar value that can be attached to that.
yeah, it's very speculative,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think it would have a lot of value to, drug companies and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other climate you got to remember is, the regulatory climate. If the country were to go to, a single payer system, then you may be counting on, this large amount of money in years 6, 7, or 8 when the data's when you've got, data and the values there for the data, but then, the government could put a cap on it, and they could say, okay, well, drug companies, we're capping your profits at 3.8% because we got to keep, the cost down for the single payer system,
Mm-hmm.
and so you'd fall into that, and
Sure.
and they really don't care that you gave away your stuff for 8 years, and we're counting on this money to do that. So it's the bird in the hand is worth. I'd rather go for the high return, the quicker high return, with something that makes the founder happy that he's either that or, he can turn around and use his profits to, do philanthropic work or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Yeah, I'm still trying to decide which one I like now. I'm really confused. But I think that we are pretty much done. We're kind of out of time. I feel like it was a really good discussion. This case initially kind of intimidated me with all of the vocabulary and hard read compared to the others, but it was really good and stuff. If there are no more comments or things that need to be brought up, I guess we can go ahead and finish.
Okay. Next week, same time, same place.